No movie can please everyone. But on the other hand, there are films that seem to go out of their way just to annoy fans, by making baffling creative calls and perhaps even betraying the spirit of their respective franchise. However, these 10 movies, all franchise sequels which held the baggage of a disgruntled fanbase, decided to alleviate the fans' frustration by actually poking fun at those creative missteps. As if to tell the audience, we get it, and it hopefully won't happen again. Whether as a bit of playful fun or a genuinely pointed grievance, these movies all express their disapproval of what fans hated most about them. I'm Gareth from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 movie sequels that mocked what fans hated. Number 10. Casino Royale and Skyfall mocked all the campy James Bond movies. It's fair to say that audiences were well and truly fed up with campy James Bond by the end of Pierce Brosnan's run. The Daniel Craig era of Bond has deferred to a grittier and more realistic tone, immediately typified by Craig's debut, Casino Royale, where, when asked whether he wants his martini shaken or stirred, 007 bluntly retorts, "Do I look like I give a damn?" Skyfall pulls off a similar gag when Bond meets with Q for the first time, and upon learning of his minimalist arsenal going into his mission, Bond quips, "Not exactly Christmas, is it?" Hilariously, Q fires back with, "Were you expecting an exploding pen?" We don't really go in for that anymore. This is of course a direct nod to the silliness of the Brosnan years in particular, given that Bond actually used an explosive pen in Brosnan's debut outing GoldenEye. Number 9. X-Men Apocalypse mocked X-Men The Last Stand. X-Men Apocalypse features a memorable scene where the Young Mutants go to the movies to watch Return of the Jedi. The sequence ends with Jean Grey offering up a knowing comment. Well, at least we can all agree the third one is always the worst. Given that Apocalypse was directed by original X-Men helmer Bryan Singer, it's hilariously obvious that this was something of a disgruntled nod towards the much maligned third X-Men movie, The Last Stand. The tragic irony, of course, is that Apocalypse was itself ultimately a disappointing threequel, failing to match the quality of its predecessors First Class and Days of Future Past. Number 8. Halloween 2018 mocked Laurie being Michael's sister. David Gordon Green's 2018 Halloween sequel reboot set out to do one thing: deliver a direct follow-up to the original 1978 movie, which tidied up the continuity by ignoring the glut of increasingly terrible sequels. This extended to Halloween 2's divisive revelation that protagonist Laurie Strode was in fact the sister of the murderous Michael Myers. A convoluted plot point which was speedily retconned into oblivion in the new Halloween. Early in the film, Laurie's granddaughter Allison is talking with her friends about the Laurie-Michael connection. And when one of her friends asks about the two being related, Allison says, "No, that's just a bit that some people made up to make them feel better, I think." The line was even featured in the movie's trailers, as if to confirm to fans that every Halloween sequel was dead and buried. Number 7. Jurassic World mocked Jurassic Park 3's Spinosaurus. Jurassic Park 3 is largely agreed to be the worst movie in the series. And though this is largely a result of both a terrible script and rushed production, this also carries through to the crushingly disappointed antagonist. The film's big bad was the Spinosaurus, which, despite being the largest known carnivorous dinosaur, didn't feel nearly as terrifying or imposing as either the T-Rex or the raptors from the previous movies. With that in mind, Jurassic World took the opportunity to fling some low-key shade at the Spinosaurus, with the creature's skeleton being visible in the park's main square. Better still, in the film's climax, the classic T-Rex ends up running into the skeleton and totally destroying it, making a pretty decisive statement about what writer-director Colin Trevorrow thought of the underwhelming dino. Oh, should I say Spino? No, I should not. Number 6. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice mocked Man of Steel's collateral damage. The climactic battle between Superman and Zod in Man of Steel clearly resulted in a sizable chunk of Metropolis being destroyed. And though we've never been given a death toll, a real-life consulting firm estimated that around 129,000 people were probably killed. Many fans were dismayed that the Man of Steel didn't seem particularly concerned about minimizing the carnage, especially with the lack of scenes depicting Supes saving people from death. Intriguingly, the follow-up, Batman v Superman, decided to directly engage with this criticism, centering much of its narrative on the tide of public opinion turning against Superman following the Battle of Metropolis. It's an interesting idea, albeit one clumsily handled and ultimately taken to the point of parody in the film's final battle, as Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman take on the monstrous behemoth Doomsday at the isolated Gotham port. Numerous spoken references are made to the port being abandoned and no civilians being anywhere near the carnage, to the point where it feels like director Zack Snyder was not only mocking his own previous movie, but also thumbing his nose at the audience's hand-wringing. Number 5. It Chapter 2 mocked Stephen King's terrible endings. It Chapter 2 didn't offer up any mockery of the previous film, though it did hilariously decide to throw some not-so-jokey criticism towards the novel's legendary author, Stephen King, which is a criticism routinely leveled at King himself. Hilariously, King even has a cameo in the movie and gamely agrees to poke fun at his penchant for underwhelming climaxes. When Bill offers to sign one of his books for King, King retorts, "Nah, I didn't like the ending." In a delicious added blast of irony, the film itself was ultimately a fairly ho-hum sequel that couldn't make much sense out of the famously divisive finale to King's source material. Number 4. Avengers Age of Ultron and Thor Ragnarok mocked the Jane Foster romance. By far the most continually criticised aspect of the first two Thor films is the totally lame and unconvincing romance between Thor and Jane Foster. It's no secret that Portman tried to walk away from Thor: The Dark World after original director Patty Jenkins was replaced, and presumably due to this, Jane was curiously absent from the MCU for the next 6 years, until making a brief appearance in Avengers Endgame via archive footage. The interceding MCU films made periodic cracks about Jane's bizarre absence, with Avengers Age of Ultron seemingly underlining the audience's own apathy, when Thor comments, "I'm not even sure what country Jane's in." But the nail was well and truly hit on the head in Thor Ragnarok, when a passerby casually mentions that Jane dumped Thor, and he replies, "It was a mutual dumping," as if self-reflectively commenting on the very nature of Portman's own departure from the franchise. Most surprisingly of all, however, is that Jane will be reintroduced to the franchise in the upcoming Thor: Love and Thunder, reportedly playing a new female iteration of Thor. Number 3. Deadpool 2 mocked X-Men Origins Wolverine's Barakapool. The Deadpool movies are defined by their deliciously self-aware sense of humour, keen to knowingly mock themselves and, well, pretty much anything else worth mocking. This extends to the wider X-Men franchise, with both Deadpool movies taking the opportunity to throw some vitriolic shade at the series' prior depiction of the Merc with the mouth. Deadpool, of course, first appeared in live-action form in 2009's reviled spin-off X-Men Origins Wolverine, played by Ryan Reynolds initially, before being repurposed into a generic, puppet-like zombie for the film's third act, where he boasted a random selection of mutant abilities, had a sewn-up mouth, and looked nothing like Deadpool. This abominable reimagining of Deadpool, dubbed Barakapool by fans due to his resemblance to Mortal Kombat character Baraka, was gleefully sent up in the first Deadpool, with an action figure of Barakapool briefly visible. But Deadpool 2 took this to ludicrously fourth wall-breaking extremes in its end credits sequence, by having Wade literally travel back through time and murder Barakapool moments before he was due to battle Wolverine. I feel better now. Number 2, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot mocked all of Kevin Smith's failed movies. There are few filmmakers as relentlessly self-aware as Kevin Smith. The vast majority of the films in Smith's View Askewniverse have lovingly poked fun at Smith's obsession with pop culture, while the Jay and Silent Bob movies in particular have seen the writer-director take shots at his own deficiencies as a filmmaker. This reached its apex with the recent Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Beyond the dozens and dozens of outrageous cameos, there are also countless references to the director's failed movies, namely Jersey Girl, Cop Out, Tusk, and Yoga Hosers. Hilariously, when one character pulls a gun on Smith, a character says of the shooter, "She probably paid to see Yoga Hosers." Though none of those mocked movies are technically part of the Askewniverse, the fact that Smith and his filmography now clearly exist within the franchise basically means that all bets are off. Number 1, Resident Evil Afterlife mocked Alice being overpowered. Though the first film was a comparatively modest B-movie, the Resident Evil sequels consistently irritated fans with their increasingly cartoonish depiction of protagonist Alice. Each new sequel saw Alice become progressively more overpowered due to her exposure to the T-virus, culminating in the third film, Resident Evil Extinction, revealing that Alice now commands an army of Alice clones which she plans to fight Umbrella with. As if Paul W.S. Anderson realized that he'd taken things a little bit too far. The follow-up, Resident Evil Afterlife, kicked off with all the clones being quickly blown up by Wesker. It didn't save the series by any means, but at least it acted as a polite nod to the fans that the director may have gone a little bit overboard last time out. And that's our list. Know of any other movie sequels that mocked what fans hated? Let us know all about them in the comment section below. And do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button. Also, why not head on over to whatculture.com and check out some more awesome articles just like this one.